former CIA operative who's wanted in Venezuela and Cuba for terrorist attacks throughout Latin America has gone on trial in the US. But that's not why Luis Posada Carriles is in court. Instead, he's being charged with lying to immigration officers. RT's Jihan Hafiz looks at why the US is turning a blind eye to an alleged terrorist.
Miami, Florida. White sand beaches, miniskirts and bikinis. This vacation spot is also home to a convicted international terrorist, Luis Posada Carriles. Coined the Bin Laden of the Americas, the anti-Castro Cuban was the CIA's dirty secret in South and Central America. Trained as an explosives expert at the notorious School of the Americas, Posada's acts of terrorism spanned 5 decades and impacted half a dozen countries. Over 70 people were killed when Cubana airliner 455 was bombed in 1976. A terrorist act Posada plans from Venezuela, and according to CIA documents, the agency was aware of it before it happened.
Posada Carriles was the mastermind of the bombing of the Cubana flight, and still he's here.
Posada was convicted in absentia in Venezuela of masterminding the bombing. However, not only did the U.S. government refuse to extradite Posada to Venezuela to serve his term, the CIA continued to employ him as a key element in the Contra Wars, which claimed the lives of 70,000 civilians in Nicaragua. He was a leading figure in the Iran-Contra affair in the 1980s. Had the CIA stopped Posada in his tracks,
put yourself in my shoes. My brother was killed.
Livia Di Silmo's brother Fabio would still be alive.
Put yourself in the place of a victim of a family, victim of terrorism, and it's absurd.
Di Silmo, an Italian businessman, was murdered in a 1997 bombing orchestrated by Posada. It was one of a string of hotel and nightclub bombings in Cuba. Di Silmo describes Posada as
a monster created by a country that is their government officials, to push their agenda, are willing to go any route.
After jailing Posada upon entering the U.S. illegally, law enforcement agencies warned the Justice Department of Posada's terrorist past. But he was set free anyway. Now Posada is on trial in El Paso, Texas. The charges against him, not international terrorism, but immigration fraud and perjury.
We unleashed him on the world.
Peter Kornblue of the National Security Archives obtained dozens of documents pertaining to Posada's involvement with the CIA. He says the case is about
whether the United States truly can hold real terrorists, although in this case a terrorist who was once our terrorist, accountable.
Livio acknowledges the importance of Posada on trial, but insists
this is going to be too little too late.
And it wasn't the only acts of terrorism Posada was involved in. There was the 2000 assassination attempt on Cuban leader Fidel Castro and a series of attacks across Latin America.
The legacy of Luis Posada is that he is a CIA-created Frankenstein, and he went out and committed murder and mayhem.
The CIA once described Posada as a reliable asset to the U.S. government, a man of good character, pro-U.S., who would make an excellent official in a post-Castro government.
Their evaluation of him could not have been more mistaken.
Half a century after Posada Carriles began doing the CIA's dirty work in Latin America, his bloody legacy lives on for the countless victims. And as the U.S. government continues to fight the so-called war on terrorism, extraditing, kidnapping, and assassinating suspects in other countries, it continues to harbor one of the hemisphere's most notorious terrorists. Jihan Hafiz, RT, Washington, D.C.